right, welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon reviews. Let's see, 4 videos up this week, 3 reviews, 1 impressions vid we got going. The first of which is Flashback, or by its more proper title, Flashback: The Quest for Identity. This is actually important to note because this game got a remake about 10 years ago that also uses the name Flashback, but just Flashback. So in order to identify the original, you use the full title. I suppose it's handy that that exists, so we don't have to add the year here. In any case. I'm like, but putting that aside, what is Flashback? So, at its basic level, Flashback is the perhaps platonic ideal of that divisive subgenre of platformers called the cinematic platformer. We've talked about them before. Your Prince of Persias, your Oddworld. And
or Lester the
Flashback. What now? Well,
I was referencing Lester the Unlikely, which is one that was on NES or Super Nintendo or something.
Yeah, like that's considered to be the shit one. Whereas Flashback is considered to be one of, if not the best, old school classic cinematic platformers to have ever been created. I'm not sure about that, mainly because, I have a not complicated relationship with this genre. It's not my flavor of platformer, if I'm being honest. I've certainly played them. I played the original Prince of Persia back in the day. I played the original Oddworld titles. If you know how those play, this is pretty close to how those play. It's going for quote-unquote realism in that there's actual physics and, you've got to worry about inertia when you run. There's fall damage if you fall from too great a height, that kind of thing. You have like one of the favorite mechanics of the cinematic platformer is to slowly drop down from a ledge. Like you have to actually position yourself down and press the down key to go down a ledge. This game complicates things by being a European one of these. What do I mean by that? In simple terms, up is jump. And dear God, does that fuck with the muscle memory? Am I wrong?
No. This was pretty common in early PC platformers.
Right, but especially if they came from, like, the UK or France. And it was something born out of necessity. Because a lot, like the Commodore 64 controller was a joystick with a button. One button. So how do you make that work with a platform game? Well, up to jump. The weird thing is this is not a, strictly speaking, PC platforming game. At least according to the information I could source up. Apparently, Flashback was originally designed with the Mega Drive / Genesis in mind. Even though it's first recorded. Right. Though its apparent first recorded release is the Amiga, where this kind of tomfoolery was very common. So, like I said, I'm not sure the veracity of this information, but it's definitely something that's out of that school of design. and I do feel like mentioning it here and now, because if you're used to how a good chunk of platformers, even cinematic platformers, because the ones that are American made, Oddworld, Prince of Persia, Blackthorn, they have a button to jump. This one, you got to hit the up button. Like I said, it's something you can acquire, but you will be fucking up your jumps initially. Also, Petty, here you don't need to do the long jump. You can just short jump across that gap. That's what I know what the tutorial says, but it's actually long, and this is actually a good showcase of other quirks of the cinematic platformer. You've got to be in the right spot in order to get up on the ledge. Or
God, I hate this so much.
Like I said, this is an acquired taste. No. You've got to do what they call a short jump. You've got to do the forward and A jump on the on the other side. Yeah, go up. Also, you've got to continue holding down the up button if you want to get up a ledge. That's another thing that fucked me over a couple of times in the beginning, because I'm so used to, automatic mechanics here. Ironically, this game has a bit of automatic mechanics that you wouldn't expect out of a platforming game of any vintage in 1993. And that is, on certain platforms, you can run and jump. You got to get to the top platformer, Petty, and then run and jump. Like the very top.
Yeah. Remember, you're on like a 5 to 8 second delay.
I know. It's just, I need to emphasize this because, you're encountering a lot of what I had to rewire.
It's not letting me jump.
We gotta. Okay. Just go to the end of the ledge and jump. You'll make it. You will grab the other side of the ledge, and you will have to make sure you continue to hold up, or you'll fall. But you can make it. No. Forward jump. Like I said, this is the quirks of the cinematic platform.
I have just gotten frustrated with this piece of shit.
Like, I can't say this is a bad game. It's just you have to put up with its shit ton of quirks if you're going to get anywhere in it. And it will frustrate you if you're used to other platform games. Probably for the best.
If you're used to platformers with such advanced features as smooth controls or control schemes that work well.
Well, once again, this is the hallmark of the cinematic platformer. These particular subset of controls are what define it, for better or for worse. And it's not just to the movement either. It's the combat. The combat is very exacting. Petty didn't get a chance to showcase it, but okay, like you have to pull out your gun, and there's two ways to do that. There's the hold down the button to pull out your gun, and then there's your you press the button that'll leave you gun prone. Like, I'm not exactly sure why they got two ways to do that, especially because there's another mechanic that's tied to the gun specifically, and that is rolling. When you crouch, you can only crouch with the gun holstered, because when you try to crouch with the gun drawn, you will roll. And you need to do that to get around certain traps. Like there are these green floor panels that you have to roll over, and are very barely visible in the fucking jungle. Like, on the nice side, you do get unlimited ammo, and there's not really any sort of special weapons with limited ammo. Like, combat's a component of this game, but it's as much about the platforming and the puzzle elements, because this game also throws puzzles at you. Nothing too complicated, but certainly more than your average platformer in the 90s was throwing out at you. A bit into the way in the first level, you will get a stone, and you got to use that as a weight. Like either you got to throw it, and of course you got to be on the right square in order to make sure it hits the right spot. It's all very exacting. Like, and I could go on about the just ultra quirky controls, but I think the point has been belabored enough. It's like, if you're going to engage in this game at all, you have to do it on its terms, and that is getting used to its control scheme. Outside of that, putting this game into context, Flashback was advertised as a CD-ROM game in a cartridge, or in a floppy disk, i.e., a not CD-ROM, and that has to do with the cutscenes you've been seeing played on screen here, which are very immaculately detailed for a game that would have been released on floppy disks.
Also, they had fun playing with rotoscope there.
Oh yes. Also, not the first game to do this particular technique from the developer Delphine Software. They were also the creators of Out of This World, or Another World, depending on your territory. Use the exact same kind of technique. Not the same creative team, though. And I will say I like Flashback a fair bit more than Out of This World. But that's mainly down to, for as quirky as Flashback is, Out of This World is just fucking mean. But, we'll talk about that if we ever talk about Out of This World. Anyway, ironically enough, so Flashback here got a ton of ports to pretty much any system that had a pulse in like 1993 to 1995. I mean any system, because this game is showing up on systems like the Jaguar, the CDI, the FM Towns, real obscure stuff that typically didn't get a lot of games unless they were being brought to like literally every platform, or someone worked out a deal there. Ironically enough, the CD-ROM versions of this game, the cutscenes are a lot less impressive, if only because instead of rotoscoping, we've got 90s CGI, and not even like late 90s CGI. So, it looks rough. Not gonna lie. I'm like, oh. So that's Flashback Classic. This package here is a bit different. So, in essence, what did Microids do to gussy it up for a modern day release? Okay, so first of all, they stuck the game into a fucking Unity wrapper. I know it doesn't have the Made with Unity logo, but I've played enough Unity games to know what the base-ass Unity prompts look like before you start a game. And this has it. This is also why the game is fucking bloated, and it takes a bit of time to start up from the Microids logo. But as far as bloatware goes, it's still pretty negligible. Like, it doesn't really affect things in game. I just felt like mentioning that here. As far as what they've done to touch up the game, well, they've done exactly that. They've got a quote-unquote modern version of the game that allows remastered soundtrack to be played, which is, it sounds not modern, but it's got much more like sound channels behind it and shit like that. I suppose, as an aside, the music in this game I could describe as sparse. Like, they have it, but it plays Half-Life style. This game dates Half-Life by a good few years. Like, when you get to a certain segment, it'll start playing a piece of music, that kind of deal. And, it's your heavy industrial synthwave stuff that you'd expect out of a cyberpunk thriller such as this. Also, it's got modern graphical filters, which, ironically means bringing in, like, the CRT, scan lines and shit like that, should you want that.
If you're playing this on, like, a widescreen monitor, you actually get, like, a cutout of what it would look like on a regular, like, CRT. Like, the rounded corners and stuff.
Yeah, and it's got the borders going. But the most interesting thing is the rewind feature, because this game actually does the rewind in a way I haven't seen in other retro packages, and maybe worth exploring more. And that is, so there are 3 levels of difficulty, and these are levels of difficulty that were found in the classic game as well. Easy, medium, and hard, and they do make a pronounced difference. Like the difference between easy and normal is there's a lot less robots. Consequently, it makes the game feel a lot more empty. But as far as the rewind feature goes, so on easy you have infinite rewind. Also, rewind is not a function you access at any given time. It only occurs when you die. And given a game like this, you're going to die a lot. So the key feature here is on easy, you have infinite rewind. On normal mode, you have 2 minutes of rewind time per level. And on hard, you have 5 minutes of rewind for the entire game, which is still more than you're allotted in the classic game at any level, which is absolutely no rewind. So yeah, they've actually got the rewind feature wired to the difficulty mode. I'm not sure how I feel about that, honestly, but at the very least, it's interesting. I've legitimately not seen the rewind feature used in this capacity. And like I said, maybe it's worth having other games explore this. Some fine tinkering may be in order here. I don't know. Because personally, I am fine with, games, especially games of this nature having a rewind feature, because, yeah, you're going to die a lot just by the nature of the controls. And, all in all, it's a fairly lackluster package, if I'm being honest. Even though this thing's been out for a few years, and, obviously the bar's been raised thanks to, like, Digital Eclipse. It's the fact that they jammed it into a Unity shell that kind of irks me. Especially when, I get to the other game I'm reviewing this week where, they rebuilt it from the ground up, or at least, there's no obvious Unity parts showing. Not to mention that a game of this significance, especially since apparently it is the best-selling French title from like the 90s, or at least like up to the point it was released. Like 2.2 million copies sold. I'm pretty sure Ubisoft has gotten that record very handedly beat. Though I'm not sure how you want to quantify Ubisoft. They are a French company, but the games that they release come from literally all over the world. Mm-hmm. The point is, so much more can be done here in terms of the presentation and the packaging. Like having the packaging represented, from all the 15,000 versions of Flashback. Just off the top of the head. Getting into the history of Flashback. Having the various versions, because
give it kind of like the Criterion Collection treatment or whatever.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, this is a prime candidate for the Gold Master series right here. Because once again, if I had to guess which version of the game this is, it's like either the Mega Drive or the Amiga version. It's certainly not like the Super Nintendo version, because honestly, that game got kind of butchered on the Super Nintendo, which is something that happened a fair bit often when you were transposing a game from one platform to the other that was really designed for a certain platform. Mm-hmm. Like if you were building for the Genesis, you really had to adjust things for the Super Nintendo and vice versa, because
back when consoles weren't basically x86 PCs with different skins on them.
Yes. You had to adjust for what you were working on. Anyway, so, landmark title, still 1,000 words of caution here into getting the game because of what it is. Once again, I feel like I've covered myself on what might prevent you from getting into the game. I got into it, but it always takes me time to get into cinematic platformers. Oddworld was the same. You need patience for these things. And if you don't have them, spend your $10 elsewhere. Yeah, this thing is going for $10. Is this game worth $10? Ordinarily, I'd say yes, but this game goes on sale for like $1. So, just wait for that deep sale here on either side of the coin. At $10, I think this needs a better package to justify it at, 10 or a higher price. Once again, if Digital Eclipse got their hands on it, it would probably go for $30, but would also be stuffed with a dozen different versions, interviews, and just a whole bunch of stuff that would justify the price. Right. I think that's about all I have to say on Flashback. Anything you two want to add to the conversation?
I wasn't a fan.
Yeah, I'm categorically not a big fan of this kind of platformer, if you couldn't tell from my comments, so.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think anyone here is a super big fan of the cinematic platformer. I will say, I like this more than Prince of Persia. Haven't ever played Prince of Persia 2 or Out of This World, mainly because it's a lot fairer than those, but I would put it below the Oddworld games. The old school Oddworld games. In the pantheon of cinematic platformers that I played and can remember. Anyway, so yeah, I think that'll about do it for Flashback. Be sure to tune in after the break, as Petty will be giving his impressions on Right Wars.